as well? Yeah, please do.
Alrighty, so hi there. I'll come back to the cockpit for you guys in just a second, okay, so you haven't missed out. So down the back, this is where the main sort of bulk of the work goes on. We'll have two crew members back here. One will be the observer, who occupies that seat normally. One will be the air crewman, whose job it is to look after the aircraft fit and equipment. They're both trained to operate the winch, they're both trained to go out on the winch, so unlike the airports, we don't have a dedicated winch operator or winch man. The observer will use the radar, which is behind you there, to basically navigate the aircraft when it's poor. If we're over the sea, we'll use that to avoid cliffs or to find vessels that are in distress. Obviously, if we are in fog or in cloud over the sea, we've got no way of seeing the particular vessel that we might be going to, so he'll identify it on the radar, and he can then steer us into within a quarter of a mile of that boat. Once we're on scene, then the pilot's job really is quite a simple one, and their job is to basically do as they're told, to maintain a stable hover, which is quite easy in this aircraft as long as the wind's not too bad. Meanwhile, down the back here, the observer and the air crew will work together to get one of them out of the aircraft using the hoist there down to the survivor or the casualty. Now, we haven't actually got a full medical book. I don't think we've got any medical gear on board today, but normally we'd have a stretcher arranged where you are there, so up to an attachment point in the ceiling, so it would be hanging at a 45-degree angle. We'd have a first response bag, which is all your sort of immediate first aid stuff. That would be on that seat there, and then down the front and in the box behind you, madam, there, that would be full of other medical equipment like burns kits. We carry a defibrillator on board, and unlike the air ambulance, we can actually defib in flight. And so the aircraft's pretty well stocked.
Is that because they haven't got the room to operate, or?
Because they fly a more modern helicopter with much more electronics, they're not really sure how the defib interferes with the electronics of the aircraft. This, it's mostly mechanical. It's all sort of levers, gears. There's very little to be interfered with, to be honest. So we have a little bit more relaxed clearance. Of course, the air ambulance operates to civilian rules as well, and there are very strict controls over what you can and can't use in civilian aircraft. Once we've got the survivor back in board, then both the observer and the air crewman will work together to treat the casualty. They're both medically trained, up to at least the same standard as an ambulance technician. Some of them are even paramedics. All the time that we're doing this, of course, pilots have to maintain a very steady hover, potentially only a few feet away from cliffs or other obstacles. And if you guys have already seen, but for you later on, just make a note of where the pilots are and what the view out the front is like, compared with what the view is like out the back. So you've got your air crewman or your observer here with a panoramic view of what's going on, and the pilot is 20 feet down the aircraft with a completely different perspective. And the only input that we'll be getting about where we need to position will be the voice voice marshalling from the air crewman, so forward a bit, back a bit, left a bit, right a bit, because we won't be able to see the survivor from the pilot's seat. You cannot see what you're winching to, so you have to work very closely as a team in order to achieve the job. And that's pretty much all there is to say, to be honest, unless you guys have got any specific questions about particular bits of kit or
I mean, what's like the longest operation you've been out on? Has it been?
For me, I've been quite lucky. I've not really done any super long range ones, but our maximum range is 200 miles usually. It depends on the wind, what the wind's doing, but maximum range is typically 200 miles out, do the job, take half an hour, 200 miles back. What we can do is operate, and what we have done in the past, a friend of mine went out to a job on a warship. Because it was on a warship, we know we can take fuel on that warship. So we'll operate past what we call our point of no return. So we know we can't get back on the fuel we've got, but we've got the warship. When it turned up, it was in Sea State 7, it was pretty rough, and they had a hell of a time getting on the back of the ship. Motivated by the fact that that was the only fuel around, and otherwise they were going in the water, they made a pretty good job of it and got on the back of got on the back of the deck. But that was
And did they stay
pretty.
there
No,
Oh.
they took a casualty and they went back. Just took enough fuel. It was an onward transfer up to Manchester. So we stood up another crew back at Culdrose. They flew back. The casualty then swapped over into the other aircraft. The other aircraft went on neutral. So.
A bit like AA relay then.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. We have some quite interesting jobs out to sea, but the majority of our trade comes from in the summer comes from the tourist season. People, falling off the cliff path, or even just turning an ankle. Some parts of Cornwall you just can't get an ambulance down. So people who've turned an ankle on the cliff path, and we're the only option, which is good for us because it's good fun. It's great to go out and particularly when the weather's like this. If it's not too high tempo and it's not, if they're not at risk of being, mortally injured, then that's a nice little job to go and do. When it's
Bit staring at Cornwall.
Sorry.
Bit staring at
Yeah, it does.
Cornwall.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you don't really see anybody get injured. And when the weather's bad and it's windy and blustery, then it's all a bit more difficult. And obviously, when the injuries are worse, then the pressure level goes up a notch as well, which can be quite unpleasant. But for the most part, it's a very rewarding job. Do you guys want to go and have a look up front? Because I know you missed out. Yeah. Do you want to come back up or?
When does the Sea King retire from the Navy?
We are losing the Sea King in 2016.
All right. Okay.
And at that point, the Merlin will take over the conventional roles, and civilian company will take on search and rescue.
All right. Okay.
Well, Bristow.
So if you have a look around the right there, you'll be able to see a little bit of what the pilot can see during hovering. It's not that much compared with what you can see out the door. Sorry, was that? I missed that. Was that?
Was it Bristow that's taking over?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The oil rigs, don't
Yeah,
they?
that's it. Yeah. It looks quite complicated, but it's a lot simpler than it looks. Yeah, I try not to look up there too much. A lot of those instruments and switches are duplicated, so actually what you're looking at there is an indication of the orientation of the aircraft and how much power we're using, how much fuel we've got, and what the engines are doing, and everything else is either to do with radios, to do with starting the engines, or to do with lights. And typically we'll set everything up at the start of the trip, and as long as it doesn't get dark or nothing changes too much, we don't tend to have to use too many switches or anything like that during the flight.
Everything's exposed.
Sorry?
It's mad how all the wiring's exposed.
Yeah.
Suppose it's easy to fix.
Yeah, easy to do.
Thank you.
No worries. Take care.
I love the way you brought a mountain bike to the flattest part of England.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The ironic bike. No worries. Cheers. Pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
That's all right.
Thank you.